lunch.
All right. Well, yeah. So before we push on with doing the building designer consults for this building, there was just a couple things I wanted to bring up in the NCC as well that we haven't covered yet to date. So we had a look at exit travel distances previously, and that was fine. So we confirmed that we need those two staircases. But one section I've noticed on the building is we've got external windows on the building, and so we have to think about safety in regards to external windows, etc. So if we go to D 2.24, protection of openable windows, we'll have to have a quick look at that, and then scroll down without losing it. D224. Right, protection of openable windows. So a window opening must be provided with protection if the floor below the window is 2 meters or more above the surface beneath. So 2 meters, we're probably going to be more than two. Yeah, I think we can very safely say that. Beneath in a bedroom in class 2 or 3 building, or class 4 part of a building. So if any of these windows are in a bedroom, then we need to think about that. Or where the lowest level of the window opening is less than 1.7 meters above the floor, a window opening covered by A must comply with the following. The openable portion of the window must be protected with a device capable of restricting the window opening or a screen with secure fittings. And then it goes on to say resistant outward horizontal action of 250 newtons against the window restrained by a device. And then also, once again, our 125mm sphere pops up. So not permit a 125mm sphere to pass through the window opening or screen. So go through that, have a look to see. Just keep that in mind. If we have any windows that will require protection, and you may need to put something in there in buildings in regards to that. Another, well, just went up to C. Another aspect that was identified just earlier by Mary was D 1.3, when a fire isolated stairway and ramp, or when fire isolated stairways and ramps are required, may have an impact on what you're doing and what your construction is. So we'll go to D 1.3. Where fire isolated stairways and ramps are required. So class 2 and 3 buildings, so that's going to be us. Every stairway or ramp serving as a required exit must be fire isolated unless it connects, passes through, or passes by not more than 3 consecutive stories in a class 2 building or 2 consecutive stories in a class 3 building. So we're not passing through 3 consecutive stories. So it appears that, well, look, I'll enable you to make your own determination on that. But we have that to look into and to comply with as well. Then other aspect we should be looking at, go back up to our list here. We've got D 1.6, dimensions of exits and paths of travel to exits. So flick down to D 1.6. So dimensions of exits and paths of travel to exits. So probably not too many surprises in here. So if a required exit or path of travel to an exit, or in a required exit or path of travel to an exit, so we do have 2 required exits for this building. The unobstructed height throughout must not be less than 2 meters, except the unobstructed height of any doorway may be reduced to not less than 1980 millimeters. So that's probably not going to be an issue for us. 2100 doors, 2040 internal clearance. It's not going to be, yeah, we're clear of that 1980. But then the unobstructed width of each exit or path of travel to an exit, except for doorways, must be not less than 1 meter or 1.8 meters in a passageway, corridor, or ramp normally used for the transportation of patients in beds. Oh, well, yeah, within the treatment area, ward area, etc. We're not doing that, so that's not an issue. But certainly our 1 meter may be a consideration to people, or in a public corridor or not a Class 9C building. Then we're not going to be, story mezzanine, open spectator stand accommodates more than 100 persons, no, or more than 200 people, no, etc. So
that first one,
yes, that's the one that stood out to me. But have a look at that, the dimensions of exits, and then also another one that stood out is D 2.16, barriers to prevent falls. Because we're up off the ground, we have to think about barriers to prevent falls. So we'll scoot down to D 2.16. So a continuous barrier must be provided along the side of a roof to which general access is provided. So we're not providing access to our roof, so don't worry about that. And a stairway or ramp. We've got stairways. We don't have a ramp, or may have a ramp if you wish. A floor, corridor, hallway, balcony, deck, veranda, mezzanine, access bridge, or the like. I think we might have some. We might tick that box in places. So any delineated path of access to a building. So that's sounding very much like we would have if the trafficable surface is 1 meter or more above the surface beneath. So we will be dealing with surfaces more than 1 meter high.
So if the existing balustrade is lower than Australian standards, that's going to have to be changed out too then?
Yes. Yeah. So the I won't go into where that's not. Look, you can read where it's not required in your own time there. But then a barrier required by A must be constructed in accordance with table D 2.16A, which is a location, stairways or ramps with a gradient of 1:20 or steeper. So stairways going to have 865 millimeter balustrade. Seating, mezzanine or balcony with an auditorium, we're not really dealing with that, but that's 700 millimeters, or in all other locations. So we've got our stairways and our mezzanines in that scenario can be less, and in all other locations it has to be 1 meter. So that's going to be an important thing to look at as well. And also, if any of you also choose to do an enclosed staircase, also have to be aware in regards to enclosure of space under stairs and ramps as well. So if you're fully enclosing your staircases and you're wishing to provide storage underneath them, be aware of this. So fire isolated stairways and ramps, if the space below a required fire isolated stairway or ramp is within the fire isolated shaft, it must not be enclosed to form a cupboard or similar enclosed space. And then non-fire isolated stairways and ramps, the space below a required non-fire isolated stairway, including an external stairway or a non-fire isolated ramp, must not be enclosed to form a cupboard or other enclosed space unless the enclosing walls and ceilings have an FRL of not less than 60-60-60 and any access doorway to the enclosed space is fitted with a self-closing 0-60-30 fire door. So it doesn't have to have structural adequacy, but it has to have integrity and insulation still. So that's also possibly some important considerations within the NCC for that.